remember the first time I met her, I just thought that she was just so much fun. She laughed and laughed. I think it also came down to, I just liked the way that her spirit, she had a very kind spirit. She had a very loving spirit. She wasn't pretentious. She was real, and she handled money well, and that was just pretty important to me. And she was smart. I just literally, when I thought about who I'd want to spend my life with, I just couldn't imagine waking up without her being in my life. She loved Jesus, and I found that very attractive.
Yes, I do love Jesus. But the funny thing for me, once you get to know us, you'll hear our full story. But for me, it was like God told me that this guy was the one for me.
How did God tell you that I was your
I'm telling you, and it's the greatest thing when you know without a shadow of a doubt that the person that you're married to is the person that you're supposed to be married to.
What really happened was one day she was praying, and then the heavens open up and there's a light that shone down. Oh, that's not what happened. Well, Donna said to me, she goes, Gary, I can't imagine being with anybody else besides. she's laughing. Why did I say married? The reality is that I couldn't imagine spending life with anybody else. I knew I wanted to get married. That was not in question. And I was never, that guy who, was the tall, handsome guy. I certainly wasn't tall. But there were other choices out there. But when I thought about it, I was like, there's nobody that I'd want to be doing life with. There's nobody that I'd want to raise kids, somebody I'd want to be my baby mama, the mother of my children. There's nobody else that I'd want to, have at my side, and, nobody else that I'd want to be the wind beneath their wings or the wind beneath my wings. So I asked her, and she said, did you ask my dad? Right?
Yeah.
She didn't even say yes. She said, did you ask my dad? Did you ask my dad?
Yeah.
I'm like,
that was a pretty requisite.
I was like, I ain't get married to your dad. I'm asking you. Oh yeah, I did ask her dad first.
And once he said he asked Daddy, and Daddy was okay with it, and I got married to you because you asked me, and I love you.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
I love you.
Oh, you love me telling the whole world that you love me.
Yes, I love this guy.
Well, I love her too. She's the bomb, and she's so cute. She's so fine. She's so pretty.
Oh.
See?
Can't help but love him. Someone had told me that men have very, very, very fragile egos, and that you have to you gotta stroke it really carefully.
Stroking is good. Ego, not for her, because she has a different experience. That the first 2 years was going to be, the adjustment period was going to be as challenging as it was for me, because it seemed like just little things that we argued about, just little adjusting things, family traits and habits that you don't even think is a habit. It's just kind of the way that we do it in our family, and she did it differently in our family. One of the things that I remember one time we had an argument because her father knows how to fix everything. That guy, he's tremendously good. And every time I'd pick up a tool, she's like, that's not how you do it. I'm like, child, please, I know how to use a tool, So we had many of those arguments like those. My commitment to Donna is first my commitment to God. I always say all the time, it's a vertical commitment to a horizontal relationship. And so whenever the times get tough, and they do get tough at times, is that I keep remembering that, man, my commitment first is to God. And so I also find that, when we argue and stuff, it's hard to argue when we're committed to praying about it in the morning or praying together in the morning. It's hard to argue with somebody that you're praying with. It's kind of tough.
Yeah, and for me, it's primarily keeping Jesus first and keeping my eyes focused down on him. It sounds kind of churchy, but actually it really works, because there are times when I am just hot. I am like ready to kill him. And I go for a walk. And I go for a walk and I start talking to Jesus and I complain and I tell him everything. And by the time I'm ready to come back home, I'm forgiven. Because Jesus is like, look, you did the same thing to me, girl. You did the same thing to me. So I have to realize that putting him first and telling it to someone, my problems and my cares, to someone who could do something about it, that's the solution. Keeping Jesus at the center.
And by the way, I'm thankful for that, because sometimes when we have an argument and she's hot, I'm like, man, I can't deal with this. And then she goes for a walk. She goes for a walk and then she comes back in and then she's nice. She's nice. She's nice. I feel nice. It's really a good question, because today morality has like shifted in our culture, in our 21st century culture, where living together is not seen as anything in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. I will tell you though that my experience with speaking with many couples has told me that people who are married versus people who are cohabitating, they tend to be more satisfied in their relationships. They tend to feel a greater sense within the relationship, because there's something about the feeling of permanence that makes people feel secure. Research will tell you that one of the things that woman needs most of all, more than anything else, well, there's like top 3, is a sense of security. And even though marriage is a piece of paper that you sign, it's kind of a legal contract, it provides a sense of security. I think, there are also some health benefits that, Donna, I don't know if you want to talk about the health benefits for married folks as opposed to not married folks.
Well, it's funny that research does show that men live healthier and happier when they're married. Never said anything about women though. Did not say nothing about no women.
I think they didn't live less. I think what it is that most of the studies did center around men, but in general, couples with who are married, and you can Google it, tend to have longer lifespans than those who don't. And part of the reason is there's there's emotional well-being that enhances in successful marriages, and so your mental health is impacted, and also there's all this research around cardiovascular disease and all this other stuff.
Total.
That comes
because
out.
There is a mind-body connection. There is a mind-body connection, and having a conducive, loving atmosphere does help to promote better health.
This global pandemic has actually brought around some different stresses in our marriage, and I'm sure it probably did some in some of you guys listening to in your marriages also. For my job doing strategy for this company, I was on a plane 3 weeks out of the month, and so I'd be gone, and then I come back and we have stuff to do at home, and so the times that we spent together were really maximized. Now, with me not being on a plane since March and working from home, we see each other a lot, and so we interact with each other a lot more than in the past. And in the first X period of time, we had to figure it out, because there's a lot more opportunities for some discussions about things.
Conflicts. Toilet seats up.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was just the least of it. But I will say though that I'm actually happy in one sense for this pandemic, because it has really made me realize why I love Nana, which is, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but just the type of person that she is. I just really appreciate her and her perspective. And we talk about so many more little things. And, we used to always talk about the big things. We talk about so many more little things now, which has really enhanced our marriage. Plus, her love language is quality time. So she's getting her love tank filled. More than before, anyway.
More than good way to temper that. Be more than before. The pandemic really makes me realize that you really need to like the person that you marry because you're gonna, I mean, being around him all the time and him leaving the toilet seat up and now you've fallen into the toilet. I mean,
Hey, there are worse things to fall into. Well, maybe not, you know.
just love each other.
I think growing up, we didn't have, I mean, I had great parents who modeled marriage and, you know, successful marriage, and Donna did also.
Yeah.
And so, but in, you know, for Black people as a whole, you know, when you look at the statistics, it doesn't bear out well for us as a population. You know, there's all these statistics about Black men incarcerated and Black men da 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 da. And so the odds weren't stacked. And I really appreciate it, and I hate to say it now because of what happened to this particular actor. But there was a particular show on TV. Let me not call the name of the show.
That was Black love for us.
Yeah, we saw a successful middle class, upper middle class Black couple on TV, a sitcom, raising some kids.
Felicia Rashad.
Oh, well, let's just leave it there. Felicia Rashad was in the show, and
Mr. Huxtable.
yeah, we can use that name. And I like, wow, I'd like to be like that. You know, I'd like to be successful, and I'd like to have a successful wife, and I'd like to have fun together as a family. So it's no different than white love or Asian love or any other kind of love. But, you know, just knowing that we can model the love that God has, you know, for the church. And as Black people, we can bust stereotypes. That's kind of what it means to me.